Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
Once again, welcome to the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. I'm still your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 201. Hope everyone enjoyed watching the U.S. Open. I watched way too much of the coverage because I was sick the entire week. One of those colds that just absolutely knocks you on your ass. You don't feel like doing anything. And with the U.S. Open being on the West Coast and Golf Channel doing live from all day, I think I saw the Coastline montage from Torrey Pines and Tiger's putt on Sunday in 2008, a couple dozen times at least. Truthfully, it really felt like it took the entire week for the tournament to really get exciting. Don't get me wrong, it's a major, it's the U.S. Open. I'm not going to be changing the channel. And, I really thought that the back nine on Sunday was going to be incredible. I thought we'd see 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 players in that 2-hole aggregate playoff. But it just wasn't meant to be. And truthfully, without Rahm making those putts on 17 and 18, this major would have had a completely different feel. This is the coronation and the arrival, finally, of Jon Rahm, major champion. He's obviously been on the short list of players destined to win a major for several years now. He was arguably the favorite heading in, especially after what happened at the Memorial. But I can't help but think what Sunday could have been. Koepka, McIlroy, Bryson, Rahm, they're all there. It's also crazy to think that there's only one more major left this season. It feels like Hideki just won the Masters a couple weeks ago. But that's all right. We have the Olympics, we have the Ryder Cup, plenty of golf to look forward to. I haven't been on the road in a little bit, but that is going to change soon. Once again, I'm heading back to Dallas to cover the 2021 Maridoe Amateur. Couldn't be more excited to head back to see all of the great people at Maridoe, and especially all the great players in the field. More interviews, photos, videos, really going to pull out all the stops this time. Make sure you're following on Instagram, and not just my Instagram page. Go follow the Maridoe Amateur Instagram page. It's pretty simple to find. Just search Maridoe Amateur. And don't forget, the Western Amateur is about a month away. I'll be covering that championship alongside the great people at the Western Golf Association. I cannot wait to experience the Western for the first time. My guest on this episode is Joe Pagdin. Joe just completed his freshman season as a member of the University of Florida Gators men's golf team. How was his 2021? Well, he's the 2021 SEC Freshman of the Year. He made the Ping All-Region team. He was selected to the international squad for the Arnold Palmer Cup, and he was also a reserve for the GB&I squad at the Walker Cup. We spoke about his start in the game, what led him to Florida, his journey to the NCAAs, and again, his pursuit to make it onto that GB&I Walker Cup team at Seminole. As I said, ultimately he was selected as a reserve for the GB&I team, and for someone that wanted to be there playing so badly, to embrace a support role in the way that he did, I gained a lot of respect for Joe that week. The Walker Cup returns to the Old Course in Scotland in 2023, and believe me, those dates are circled in ink on Joe Pagdin's calendar. Let's get this episode started. Joe, you're at the back of the range. How are you?
Very good. How about you?
I'm doing well. Just we're recording on the Saturday of the PGA Championship, so I was nervously watching Phil Mickelson as a fellow old guy just like myself, and I guess he's going into the final round with a lead, and this episode will be released after the PGA Championship is over. So let's have some fun. Predictions: is Phil going to win this or not?
I'm actually not sure. I mean, after watching quite a bit of coverage these past few days, JC, my coach, he went out there on Friday to help one of his players, and he said it's one of the toughest conditions he's ever seen. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to, watching tomorrow afternoon, and I think it's up for grabs. If that wind blows and, conditions get firm and fast, I think anyone could win. But I think it'll be cool. There's several people I think it would be cool to see win. Obviously Phil, obviously at his age and, how many times, he's won and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I think it would also be cool to see Brooks, get another major after, some of the issues he's had with injury. And then my kind of dark horse pick is Louis Oosthuizen, and I think, he's almost got like a career Grand Slam of runner-ups.
He does.
He
does.
I think it'll be cool to see him pull it off.
Yeah, I really like the venue. I like you. I'm actually going to be there in September. I'm actually going to put the microphone down and go play a little golf myself. So I got a lot of my buddies that are reaching out saying this place looks awesome. And I am very anxiously awaiting what will happen tomorrow. I'm looking forward to something down the stretch. Now, we just talked about this golf course, and we're going to talk about all sorts of different golf courses that you've been playing on over the last year or so. But you are first of all, congrats, SEC Freshman of the Year out of the University of Florida. So nice start to your collegiate career. I always like to get a little bit of history on the guest on the podcast as to where they picked up the game, where they got into golf. I know you've spent quite a lot of your childhood and junior career and amateur career in the state of Florida, but you are not a Floridian, I guess. You are, well, tell people where you're from.
Yeah, well, I'm from Sheffield, England. Born, raised most of my life, or half my life there, and moved over when I was young. And my parents wanted to move out here, and my dad set up a business. And he just wanted to experience it because we always came on holiday when I was young.
Sure.
And loved it. Obviously, loved the weather and loved golf out here. And before I played golf, I played football, soccer. And I was quite good. I played for an academy team, not in England. In England, I just played for fun, and I was, very competitive. My dad played professionally when he was in his teens for Sheffield United, which is our football club now.
Nice.
And so when I moved over here, I played for it was an academy team called Orlando Craze and Crush, and they were a feeder team into what is now the Orlando City, the MLS club. And I loved it. I slept and breathed. I practiced every day. I was so into it. And obviously my dad wanted me to grow up to be a professional as well, be better than him because he didn't have a long career. And, I played golf a bit here and there with my dad when he would go out with his mates, and, I'd play a couple holes, and I always liked it. And the story that where I started golf really, and it's kind of a well-known story now, is we're out in Orlando where we had a house at the time, and I was 8 at the time. And I just played golf, just recreational for fun. And after a soccer match that day, and we were at Subway, just outside of, just in Orlando, little sandwich shop. And I was there with my dad and, my football kit and everything. And a red Ferrari pulls up outside. And I was like, oh, wow, that's an awesome car. And so, this guy gets out of it. And I think to my dad, oh, who's that? And he goes, it's Ian Poulter. I said, who's that? And he goes, oh, it's a professional golfer. I was like, oh, wow. And, we walked in with all his, tour logos on. And I was thinking, obviously, just, lunch break during practice. And so obviously, because the English connection in that, my dad went up to him and said, hey, do you mind if my son has gets your autograph on that? And he goes, yeah, sure. And so we spoke for about 10 minutes, about football. He's an Arsenal fan and that. And so it was like that, and chatted for 10 minutes. And I was like, wow, this guy is cool. And the presence, as he walked in the door, with his walk and, the way he looked with the golf clothes. And I was like, this guy means business. And I said to my dad after that, I was like, I want to be like him. And he goes, well, you got to play golf. And about 10 p.m. that night, I walked into my dad's room and I said, Dad, I'm quitting football and I'm playing golf. And he was like, what? I was like, yep. And for him, it broke his heart because, he lives and breathes football.
Right.
And, playing over here, playing for, the soccer club that was out here, he really wanted me to pursue that as a career. And, when we, go back to England and play there. But he saw that at such a young age. I was just determined by that moment. And so we changed everything. I started playing, I started going to Lake Nona, which was about 10 minutes from where we lived at the time. And I started seeing a coach called Scott Blanchard. And, after a couple months of working with him, I got to the point where I could start playing US Kids events. And I started playing those in the Orlando area and, got good quite quick. So I played a bit before that. but it wasn't anything serious. And
Right.
while I was over at Lake Nona, obviously Ian lived there, and Scott, my coach at the time, introduced me to him again, and realized he's like, oh, I remember meeting you. And so I said to him, I said, well, you're the reason why I started golf. I said, ever since I met you that day, I've just been in all, the game, and I watched all videos of him and learned who he was. And then he introduced me to his son, Luke Poulter, and he was very young at the age. He was probably 6. I was 8 or 9 at the time, and it was kind of good because I kind of got to play with someone out there. I'd go out there for lessons and then
Sure.
go play a couple holes with his son. And for me, it was just surreal. I was like, wow, I mean, this guy's, like a Ryder Cup hero, and, I'm playing, he's out there and I can see him practice. And at the time, Justin Rose was out there, Gary Woodland, Trevor Ummerman. And for me, it was just like straight into the game. I got access to all this, all of golf.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it just, developed here and there. And, Ian kind of helped me, throughout. I'd see him out there on the range a couple times, give me some tips, and he didn't invite me to play with him a bit. And I still remember one day after a lesson after school, I was using US Kids clubs and that, and obviously he was with Cobra, and at the time, and his son had Cobra clubs, and I was at the back of the range. It was going dark, and he pulls up in his buggy, and his son comes and hands me a driver, Luke, and then I was like, oh, this is your driver. You want me to hit it? He goes, no, it's yours. I was like, what do you mean? He says, and Ian looks at me and goes, you're welcome. And he got me, it was a Cobra ZL driver. I still remember it to this day, and I still have it. It was a Cobra ZL driver, which he was using at the time, and his son had, and it was the exact same one as Luke. And it had this gray shaft in it with orange writing. And I was just like,
oh my
wow.
gosh. Yeah.
Like, it was, and from there on, I was just so motivated to become, great at golf and become like him. And, I started traveling. I started playing, going back to the UK and playing, some youth events, played like the US Kids in Scotland, playing the World Championship for US Kids and doing that whole scene. I just loved it. It was great. Every week you would travel to a different part of the world or the country and play. And I was like, this is just so cool. You learn stuff about the world and about, life while playing a game you love. And what I liked about golf a lot better than soccer was it was independence. You had to rely on yourself.
Sure.
And I've never been a big fan of having to rely on other people for success or to go places and that. I like to do it myself. And that's part of the reason why I stuck with golf. And then one day going for a lesson, and I was driving through the gates of Lake Nona, and I wasn't really paying attention, and we went through the members gate. We didn't stop at the security gate, and I said to my dad, I was like, how'd you get in there? And he goes, you're now a member at Lake Nona. And I was like, what? And, my dad, realized that golf looked like it was going to be my career, and my dad will do anything for me. And he realized that's the place to be, the access I have to the future of golf and, the resources. And, he put the investment and, the time into it and got me a membership there. And that, that's where I've been based ever since. I've been there a long time now. And, the people out there have helped me a lot. The facilities are amazing. And, I can't thank them enough for that opportunity. And, Ian was a very big part of that. He helped, us get a membership there and, who to talk to and get the right people to know. And ever since then, that's the reason I started golf, and that's where it all began. And, to this day, Ian and the Poulter family have been very helpful for me. I went to school with their kids, and Ian's taught me many things in life, in golf, and how to handle myself. And, Luke, he's one of my closest mates now.
Today is actually his birthday.
It is.
It is. He reached out to me actually on Instagram a while back saying he liked the podcast, and I told him today. I saw that it was his birthday. I said, "Hey, I'm talking to Pagdin today," and he's like, "Joey P's the man." I said, "Well, we're gonna get some good stories." Now that is a fantastic story, and my big takeaway is I should eat more Subway. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That's terrible. I'm sorry. No, that is a fantastic story because of so many reasons. I mean, where it's led you to where you are right now. Playing playing all over the world, playing for a Division I program, and all your success. But I think it's also a great story for people to listen to, whether they are a world famous professional golfer or they're a accountant or a doctor or a lawyer. You never know who is watching you and who's going to come up to you. And I mean, obviously, you're going up to him for an autograph, but that could just as easily be, someone that's an attorney or in insurance, and they strike up a conversation with someone at a restaurant or a gas station or whatever. You never know who you may be talking to and how it can inspire someone. Um, I still am chuckling at your dad, who is just a complete football nut, and his son says, "Yeah, I'm done. I quit."
Yeah, I mean, like he says to me to this day, apparently it just broke his heart, but he knew that he trusted my decisions, and I've had to make a lot of tough decisions in obviously in my career coming up to being where I am, and it's part of the reason why I'm being a very self-reliant person, and
Sure.
that's why I chose golf. I like to make my own decisions and not let other people make them for me, because I want to choose where I go in life. And it's I mean, golf has just been, I couldn't have asked for any more what it's brought for me in my life. The experiences, the people I've met. It's just an amazing game, isn't it? It's just it's unlike any other. So,
and just not just the game itself, but also just it seems to be something that it just opens so many doors for you. Like it reveals your character. Now, you mentioned Lake Nona. This is up in Orlando, Florida. For people that are not familiar with the area, I think many people, if they were following Tiger in his youth and when he was really in his heyday, I think Windermere and Nona were kind of mentioned side by side. So yes, there's a lot of professionals that are still based out of Lake Nona. And I know you've played obviously a lot with Poulter, Stenson, McDowell, Justin Rose. And I wanted to ask you, and this is great that they welcomed you in. You're a kid working on his game, trying to make it. When did it start to turn from just being nice to this kid that's taking interest in the game? When did it make for the turn from that to perhaps treating you as more of a contemporary that is, okay, this kid's going to be an elite amateur. This kid is going to play collegiately. We don't need to necessarily, shelter him or hold him by the hand and introduce him to golf. We need to maybe work with him and teach him a few things as if, like I said, a contemporary. Do you remember when that shift kind of started?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact kind of time.
Sure.
But I did notice several things, and obviously, for someone who I've always kind of looked up to is the stage between who has been the stage between me and obviously those guys who have already almost done with their careers on tour. It was Sam Horsfield, and he had the same story as me. Moved over when I was young, and he's close with Ian too, and Ian's mentored him, and it was kind of I saw when I was younger, I saw how he mentored Sam, and how so I learned from that, learned what Sam has told me, what Ian has told me. And then, for me, I was able to learn that next step. So, the amateur golf and the collegiate. And so it was kind of like a lending tree, for that situation. And I think what I kind of noticed was that, like you said, the turning point was when, they would openly start asking me to play with them when it's not just with their kids, or
right.
Me saying, "Hey, do you mind if I join?" It's, "Hey, Joe, we're gonna go play a couple. Would you like to join?" And when I'd be practicing on the short game area at the back of Nona, I mean, I made that when my days back there, I made that my home. I spent hours and hours on that back short game area, and the back area was for touring professionals only. And I kind of worked my way back there to practice, because obviously it was quiet, separated from everyone, so you can get some work in. And I noticed when they would come up to me and I'm practicing, see how I was, all right, Joe, you're doing all right, and have you been playing, and not really say anything to me like, do you mind moving or anything like that. That's when I noticed. I said, I really think I'm starting to make some good friends and some respect from the guys above me, and it's it's something that it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I can't thank the people around me enough, and my parents for giving me this opportunity. And it's one of those things that I'm starting to realize when, you meet young golfers, one little kind gesture of, it goes a long way for, a young person, and it did for me.
Yeah.
And it just struck me, just, the talent they had and how they went around things. And that's one of the things that's helped me the most in, my game, is just being able to, eye on eye in person, learn from these guys. I'd sit there and watch them practice, and I just learned so much stuff at a young age that, I probably wouldn't have, in other places. And it's something that I kind of wish I could go back and, watch it again.
I can imagine. Now, I know you would not, I know you would never admit that there's someone that possibly outworks you on the golf course, but again, you're at Nona, you got all these pros. I think the average golf fan sees these guys on TV. They see Poulter with his flashy clothes. They see Stenson. They see a little bit of his sense of humor. And Rose, I mean, all these guys down the list, but they may not understand what happens, behind the scenes. And you mentioned, the back of the range at Nona. Who perhaps would surprise the average golf fan as with their work ethic?
It's kind of tough to find someone about their work ethic, but what I was able to, see is there's a difference between the pros practicing, on an off week versus them practicing 5 days before going to Augusta.
Okay.
You drive up there, in your golf cart, and you pull up and say hi on just, say Christmas time, right? They stop everything. How you doing? Look at you. You pull up to them if they're with their caddy, a couple days before they're leaving. They don't look anywhere but what they're focusing on.
Gotcha.
And it's really like
it's a switch. A switch is on.
Yeah, and like for me at a young age, I'm like, oh, did I do something to upset them?
Right.
Was I not supposed to be practicing here and stuff like that? And it's not that. It's just when they mean business, they mean business. And you go out there and it's cool to see, because you can see, especially kind of the mini tour guys even that are out there, and the up and coming pros, but especially the guys, you see them with their families, especially like Henrik and Ian G-Mac with their little boys out there having fun. And I get to see that side of things. But then at the same time, I get to see the side where they're out there with their coaches, their caddy, and their physios, and they're, full boot camp, not a single distraction. And it's cool to see how they can just switch it like that. And that's something I've kind of incorporated into my kind of daily life of how I practice. And sometimes I struggle to focus when I don't have much to practice for.
Sure.
But then I'm able, when it means business, I'm able to click on and really, put my time to use and be effective with it. And it's cool to see from an outside perspective.
Yeah. No, I've picked that up along the way of doing this podcast. That seems to be a very consistent theme, that there's times where they're just kind of, gently keeping things sharp, playing some golf, just keeping some feels. But then when it's time, when there's a tournament, 5, 7, 10 days out, then literally they go into a mode that is like, yeah, this is my job and I have to get to work. So,
and like the biggest thing I especially when I was young, because I was very into like always wanting to make sure my swing was perfect and team things and that. And the guys, anyone who knows any professional golfer really, I'm sure they can kind of relate to this, but they're not always changing. They're not out there practicing to try and find something to fix. They're out there to just kind of keeping the fluid going, keep ticking over. And then when it comes to preparation before the event, it's specific for that event. And especially, at Nona, when it becomes Masters Week, they speed up the greens. They get them quick. So the guys, they practicing 14, 15 stimp putts.
Yeah.
And I remember one day Ben On was out there, and it was in the summer just before the British Open, and he had an umbrella out in front of him in the bunker to practice for pot bunkers. And it's little things like that you've noticed. They're not just here practicing for fun. They've got out a purpose, and they're not going to go home until they've achieved that.
Yeah.
Everyone out there, when it's not crunch time for tournaments, they are the best people. Some of the conversations I've had on the range with, Ian, Henrik, Graham, the funniest stuff I've ever heard in my life. And it's cool because you see the side of athletes and high-performing celebrities that people don't see. And I kind of wish people did see that, if you know what I mean, because you see them out there with their kids, they're having fun. They're talking to people who come up and, ask them for pictures and stuff like that. And a lot of athletes, I think, do get a bad rap just because of their stuff in performance, whether it's, basketball players, football players, tennis players. And, Ian, he is an amazing guy. He's funny. He loves his family. He's super caring. If he sees someone who, is hardworking and he wants to help them, he will help them. And, he'll devote the time to help anyone who he feels. And like you said, he has a lot of charity days with I think it's Dream Flight is his charity that he works with,
okay.
Which is based in UK, and they bring children with illnesses over to Disney for a week, and he goes out there and spends time with them, and he hosts an event at Nona, a charity event, and as a get together at his house and stuff like that. It's just what makes sports great. It's just something cool that, hopefully one day I'll be able to do that, and, giving back to, the community around us in golf and just in life. I think that's why you said golf is a sport that is not just all about how good or how bad you are. It opens many doors.
Yeah.
And it's just something I think so great about the world we live in today.
Now, I know that he's been very influential with your ascension in the game of golf, but you have this great junior career. I know you're number one ranked junior in AJGA, and several All-American in 2019. You played on the England boys team 3 times. So you have this great junior career, and living in Orlando with now that you mentioned Horsfield, know that he went to the University of Florida, and that's where you end up. But it's, at the level you're at in junior golf, you probably have access or interest by several top programs. I know you committed relatively early to play at the University of Florida. Talk to me a little bit about Coach Deacon and how that program became the one that you chose to play your college golf.
Yeah, I remember talking with my father and Gregor Jameson, the head at Lake Nona. And my dad was always like talking to him, saying, what Division II schools, what schools in Florida could Joe potentially get in? And Gregor always said to my dad, look, stop looking at schools like that. You need to look at, the top Division I programs. And I just didn't think I was ever that good, to do that.
Okay.
Being from the UK, college, it was something different. My parents never experienced it. I, wasn't aware of it. And so, funny enough, around that time, I was in middle school, they had the Tavistock Collegiate at Lake Nona.
Right.
And, there's Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Arizona State, all the big schools. And my dad was like, you know what? Go out there every day and watch, introduce yourself to the coaches. And, I went out there and spent some time watching the teams and learning from them. And then, the first person that walked out of the clubhouse was Coach Deacon. And I went up and says, hi, Coach, I'm Joe, and I live here, and I'm a junior golfer, and I'm interested in your program. And he's like, awesome, great. I was like, I look forward to watching you this week. And, and the whole week I went and watched, the guys play the practice rounds. And I remember going out there watching the guys on the Florida Gators on hole 4. And I was playing behind them. They were the last practice group going off, and I was just out there with my dad playing behind them because I was leaving for a tournament a couple of days after.
Sure.
And I kind of get up to the tee waiting behind them, and they all teed off and they're about to drive off, and he says, let's see you hit one. as they were up to the green, and I hit one, and I flagged this hybrid from like 200 yards, and it was one of the coolest shots I've hit.
I bet.
And I was like, wow, and watched the guys play, and obviously I sent a lot of resumes in, and so I started speaking to a lot of coaches. Obviously with the NCAA rules that I could only contact them, and it I was like, wow, they're not allowed to contact me. They're not allowed to watch me at certain things. And, once I started getting on the radar, winning a few junior events and get my ranking up, I was playing AJGAs and I was out there and I just started seeing a ton of coaches watching me. And I was like, wow, this is,
starting to get real.
Yeah, I had 4 or 5 at the time, and it was quite a bit of pressure. I was like, wow, like I felt almost like you're playing to impress them, but you weren't really. They just wanted to see how you are on the course, not specifically how you play, but how you handle yourself. And Sam, I was really close with Sam, and I learned a lot about Florida in the program, and I was like, wow, that's great. He won Freshman of the Year, won, set so many records in that, and I knew several people coming into the program, back then, and obviously they wouldn't be there when I was there. And I looked at so many SEC schools, ACC schools, and I wasn't too bothered about going over to the West Coast, just because it was far from Florida, and also even further from the UK, if my family was there at the time. And I remember coming on a visit to UF, and I went to one of the football games, American football games, and I was like, wow, it was a swamp. It was packed with 80,000 people. And I was like to my dad, I said, wow, I've never seen anything like this. And I drove home that day. It was a night game, and we got back at like midnight. And my ears were ringing the next day because it was so loud.
Sure.
And so, there was a lot of thought and consideration in top programs. I was very fortunate to have a lot of schools, offering me and wanting me to go to their program, and I just built this really close relationship with JC, and John Hendrigan at the time, who was the assistant, and it was it was the first person that I met, and so much kind of connected the dots with my friends going there, Sam obviously, being the location of it, and I fell in love with the campus and the practice facility. And I came up on it was actually my birthday in my 8th grade year. Came up for the FSU game and sat down with the coach again, and he offered me, and looked at my dad and I said, Dad, I think this is the place. And he's like, it's up to you, and you pull the trigger. And so I said, Coach, I'm committing. And it was still one of the greatest days of my life. I thought, I was like expecting it to have to, I didn't know anything like it was a big deal, and all I had to say was I'm committing in that. And obviously, there's some stuff you had to do in that. And then I was a Florida Gator, and I was very young. I was 8th grade at the time, and I think I was the youngest commit to the University of Florida's golf program.
Okay.
And I took the view of, for me, once I committed and got my, where I wanted to go in my future set, I could then go play the rest of my junior and amateur career free.
Right.
Exactly. I didn't have to worry about impressing a coach or finding a spot. And I got a lot of backlash from it, to be honest. And the Golf Channel even did an article about it, saying that it was irresponsible of my dad letting me do that, and the school taking that risk. But what they didn't, they never really asked me for for my thought and why I did it. And there was so much into it, a lot of talking, a lot of people I met, and it just felt the place for me. It was an instant connection, and I went with my gut, and so far it's worked out great. And then the rest of my junior career, I was able to just play for free. I didn't have to worry. I wasn't stressed. I enjoyed playing. And then you see, I saw some of my friends and that, coming up to their, junior, senior year, like, oh, I need to find the school.
Right.
And it just was able to let me set my plan out for the next 4 or 5 years so easily. So that's kind of how that started.
Yeah, no. And I mean, there's tons of different ways to go about that process, whether you're, you commit early, you don't commit early. There are also other there are some people that are wired for a Division I program. There are some that are not. There's some that are there's so many opportunities to play collegiate golf. There's no right or wrong for just everyone. There's plenty of opportunities. And obviously it's worked out well for you, worked out well for Coach Deacon and for the University of Florida. Obviously, being a very a strong player that's leading them to the national, going out to Greyhawk for the national championship. But you are still a freshman. Now, I know it wasn't a big transition geographically. I know that, basically Gainesville is just a couple hours up the road from where you are in Orlando. But, the first year of college can be difficult. And then obviously throwing in athletics to balance with your academics, it's quite a bit. Obviously played well. How has the transition been for you going into college? Perhaps what are some things that you've learned that, okay, I maybe need to tweak this moving on for the rest of my career? Tell me about that first year of school.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a very unique year, especially with COVID and everything.
Well, yeah, they're throwing that in too, of course.
It was one of those, I remember last year at Sage when, COVID hit and everything. It was weird, the world was shutting down. And so this year has definitely been different. There's been some positives with it and, some negatives. We've very thankful that we've been able to play. That's not so much. We got to play in the fall. The SEC played in the fall, which was amazing that they were able to pull that off, and obviously in the spring. And it was the adjustment in certain aspects was difficult, and in certain aspects it was very easy. And it was great because I knew everyone in the program and everyone coming into the program. So coming in, it wasn't like I was starting fresh with new faces and everything. So I was able to connect with the team, and Ricky and I, we've been friends a long time, and we basically committed together. He just committed just after me, and we both talked, and we wanted to come to this program together and win some national titles here. And we've got several people on board who followed after that, and the school year's been great. The resources that the University of Florida have are incredible. Better than I expected. The gym, I was able to really get into the gym. It's been difficult because of COVID and certain restrictions, but our trainer Patrick Lewis, me and him, we worked really hard, and the team did for our workouts, and I got in and I gained a lot of weight, which I intended to do, a lot of muscle weight and a lot of power, and it's really helped me gain some speed and some distance. And I look at that in such a short period of time and just think over 4 years, how much improvement I will be able to make in my academics, my physical life, my maturity, and in my golf. And that's part of the reason I chose Florida.
Yeah.
And, with COVID, there's, obviously as a freshman going to, your first ever student football game, and you've only got 15,000 people there.
Yeah, you kind of got the wrong end of the stick on that, but that's okay.
Yeah, stuff like that's different, and some obviously resources aren't available because of that, and having you have to be really careful with with COVID, and obviously, and it was great. It was tricky, it was an added pressure and an added stress that a freshman probably didn't need, but I was able to get through it, and I learned a lot about myself and a lot about life, with school, with, friendship stuff, and with golf. And I think college is such a good middle, a transition phase for any athlete to go to the professional ranks.
Yeah.
It's, you live by yourself, you learn how to do stuff. It just creates you into an adult. And I mean, I wouldn't change anything for it. I just look, everyone says, I wish I had another year. I wish I had another year. And I can see it, it's going to, you want to stay here forever. But obviously, you've got to go on to the next step. And I treat every day like just another stone to get to me where I want to be. And obviously that's, professional golfer on the tour. And, I'm using all the resources I can, the coaches here, the trainers, my teammates around me pushing me. And it's just an amazing experience. It's something I never thought, when I first, picked up a golf club I'd ever be doing.
And you're only 1 year in, and it sounds to me that you're going to, use every opportunity you can to further yourself, professionally or athletically, and get all those life experiences, so that when you do go out on that that kind of a lonely road of being a professional golfer, because it's you're not going to have a team around you, like in this sense. I want to ask you, or I don't want to get into every single tournament that you played in this year. Solid season, multiple top tens. Obviously, that led to your freshman of the year award. You guys did have back-to-back wins, Tim McQuana Cup, and then you won your home tournament in Gainesville. But admittedly, probably you guys had a couple, average team finishes here and there, and you had that. You had a WD at LSU because of COVID. I think someone in the program had COVID, so you guys had to pull out of that. And then you go to SEC championships, and I'm guessing you can probably say that was definitely one of the weakest finishes for the team. I know that you played well, but for the team, not your best. And you got to go to regionals. And as I've said previously on this podcast, with college golf, it does not matter how many tournaments you win. It doesn't matter how many All-Americans you have. It doesn't matter what your ranking is. You have to be one of these top 5 teams advancing through regionals to get to the national championship. So I'm curious if you can maybe, let us in the team room, so to speak. What were the remarks after SECs before regionals that kind of got you guys on the right track to ultimately get through?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that, we're a very young team. Our starting lineups, me, Tyler, our freshmen, we got Yushin, Ricky, Gio, Fred, and John. It's the oldest person's a sophomore, and we're golf-wise we're very experienced, but obviously age-wise, we're young, and there is a very I noticed with my current the 7 or 8 events we've played so far and playing with different players from different schools, you can tell the difference between the seasoned college players and the newbies, including myself. And you look at players now who are about to turn pro, such as Davis Thompson and John Pack, and we and us on the team, and I compete with them week to week, and I use the opportunities to learn from them when I play with them. Obviously, I'm competing against them and trying to obviously beat them and win a tournament, but I try and pick up little things here and there, and just the way they play, you can tell they've been through the system. And that's why when I started off the season with a couple top 20s, but I wasn't playing my good golf. I was making a lot of mistakes that I probably shouldn't have, and I just wasn't playing quite good of golf, just with some technical stuff. But I was able to learn in that fall season some simple stuff that I brought into the spring season, and it's really helped me. I would say, I went from being probably like having some average finishes to having some really good finishes, and they get we won the first event of the year at Timuquana in a playoff.
Yep.
With Liberty, and that was one of the coolest experiences for me, because it was a five-man playoff, went in 2 groups, and it was weird because in the playoff, usually it's you and another person. There's a lot of pressure. You mistake and you're done. But when you've got 5 guys for 4 scores, it's like it freed you up. It was like I was playing, a match with the boys here at our home course, but it was a playoff, and I was like, I said to the coach, I was like, this is one of the coolest things ever. Like I was giggling down the fairway. I was like, wow, this is just sick. And we won. I hit a great shot on the second hole, a 9-iron. It's like 4 or 5 feet, and made a birdie. And then the second group, they all parred, and Liberty had a bogey. So we're able to win it. And then we come to the Gator, and I get off to a really hot start. I'm leading after round 1, and due to weather, we had to play like 45 holes on the first round or whatever it was. And I put myself in some good positions, and I was able to card my first top 10, 8th there, and we were 4 or 5 shots back going to the back 9, and we pulled it together. With our home event, we had a lot of people out watching. The support. I had Fred in front of me. He went and had an eagle and back-to-back birdies, and he was fired up. Remember a fist pump he had on hole 12, par 5, drained the bomb for eagle. I was in the fairway, and it gave me the chills. I was like, all right, here we go. And all of a sudden, the momentum turned. We hit a hot streak, and I'm not sure what the other school was, but they kind of zoned out a bit. And I remember chipping in for eagle on 17, the drive of the par 4. It went in, and it just meant so much to me, got up there on 18 and I went long to a back pit, and I was like, and a lot of people watching me, and I had great up and down, and it's the one place coach tells us not to miss. I missed there. Bit of adrenaline from the fairway, and then watching Yushin and Ricky come in, and we had some birdies, and we won, and it just felt awesome. Like it was a home event. We had so many people watching. And then that night, we went out for a great dinner, and we had a good night as a team, and that's what it's about. You go do your individual part. You get what you need to do, and then you get there with your guys, and you fight, and you're determined. And that we got off to a hot back-to-back wins there, and there was a lot of attention around us, and then we went to LSU, and we that event for me was a big turning point, unfortunately and fortunately, and we were leading with 1 round to go, and we had a disaster on the second or last round. We all didn't play well, and we ended up not winning and placing quite poorly, actually. And it was a real shock to a lot of us. Yeah, I had my worst finish in many, many years, and it was at the wrong time because it was right around the selection for the Walker Cup, and I think that really kind of put me out of the selection for that, and it was just bad timing. And I got back and I said to JC, I said, look, I cannot play like that ever again. I walked off that 18th green and I wasn't in a good place. And I came back, I took 4 days off, didn't touch a club. And for a month after that, I worked harder than I've ever worked hard in my life. I got with the right people. I put social life, friends aside. I just was like, you know what, I've got to get on track. And I worked up all day, every day. I worked that night. We have the range where we can hit balls in the bays at night, and I was out there at night.
Yeah.
Just grinding and putting work. And I remember coming to my car one afternoon or one evening, and on my mirror of the car, Coach Deacon put a little letter, and I still have it in my wallet today. And it basically said, he's proud of me for the work I'm putting in, and it shows a lot that I'm staying there, being the last one to leave that parking lot every day. And it was good to see that someone was respecting my hard work. And I will do anything and everything to achieve what I want to achieve, and I won't let anything get in the way of it. And I worked so hard, and then unfortunately we had, an instance in the team with COVID, and we got shut down, and we couldn't go to Auburn and play.
That's right, Auburn. I said LSU. That's my fault.
Yeah, Auburn. And for me, it was I just got back working on this, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. Knock the course in pieces because I just came off a bad result and I worked so hard. And I knew also I wanted to go, and I had 2 decent results and then a bad one, and I wanted to have another good one just before the the Walker Cup selection and that. And I just didn't get the chance, unfortunately. But what that also did at the same time was it gave me more time to work on what I was working on, and it was a blessing in disguise. And then our next event was the Calusa Cup, and that by far has been my favorite event. Not just because I've been playing well, but I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Calusa.
I've heard. Yeah, I've heard it's pretty special place.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
the greens are insane. The course layout's great. And so I went there, and I was leading by 2 or 3 after day 1. Didn't have a great second day, and I was tied for the lead, and went out in that final group on the last day. John Pack, I was playing with him, and Coach walked with me the whole round, and I made a mistake on hole 2 and made a bogey on a par 5, and had a mistake later in the back 9, and those were mistakes from inexperience. They were a mistake that I wouldn't make after playing more, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And after not being in contention for a while, I learned a lot, and I fought out as hard as I could, and I had a top 5. And so going from my worst event to my best event it showed me that hard work does pay off. And for any sport and anything in life, if you work hard, you will get results, and when they show, it feels so good.
Yeah, because then you want to add more into it, and you're giving the results, and it's proof that the work you're putting in is helping.
Exactly.
You go to regionals. I don't know what you guys did to get this assignment, but I think we were talking earlier when you're at the Walker Cup, you're on the range with Fitz and with Mark Power, and they're over at Wake Forest, and you guys are seeing the selections come out to figure out which regional you're going to go to, and you basically get sent as far as possible across the country to Washington, about 3,000 miles away, and I think Florida, I know Oklahoma, Pepperdine. There were a handful of schools that I was watching on GolfStat and as I said, you got to be in the top 5 to advance to the national championship. There were several schools, really top-ranked schools that, shall we say, it was interesting because you guys were really scrapping to get in. Talk to me a little bit about, briefly what kind of message Coach Deacon was sharing with you all throughout that entire regional to kind of help you guys get through, as you've stated, as a rather young team.
Yeah, I mean, after the rough team week at the SEC Championship, not making match play, we really put in the work, and we have a team where we can win any event any week. We've got Ricky Castillo. He's just went 4-0 in the Walker Cup. Former world number, or top 10 world ranking. Number 1 in the world. Yushin Lin, 2-time winner of the Asia Pacifics, played in the Masters. The Open. Won several college events, and we got Tyler. An amazing Florida freshman, and myself, and we've got Fred and Gio. Gio, he's playing some tour events in Italy, and Fred's won a lot in Brazil. We've got a team that's statistically so good, and we've got the talent, and we just haven't had a day yet where we have all put it together. And that the day that we have 4 scores that all click, it's going to be amazing. And we went into that regional, and we went there for a mission. It wasn't obviously where we wanted to go. Across the country, different grass, different conditions. The first day I get out there and I'm warming up, and it's 34 degrees and starting to rain, but there's a bit of hail coming down, and it's like this isn't Florida.
Play hard.
Yeah, and we strive in tough conditions. We play qualifying in tough conditions. And we like it when it's not, when it's not normal. And that's what coach has really, really emphasized on those is, we play for the conditions that people don't want to play in. And we call it gator weather. And we didn't get off to the best start. Second day wasn't the best start, and we just didn't really have it. And so coming to the third day, we were 2 places out, 6 shots out of the cut line. And we all that night, we had a great team meeting. We had a great dinner. And we really came together as a team. And we were like, look, we're going to fight for every shot. We're going to fight for each other no matter what it takes. And we're going to go out there with energy, and we're going to get it done. The Gator Nation is looking on us, and we're going to make them proud. And we went out that day, and I remember getting to the 5th hole and looking at the leaderboard and seeing that several schools have already dropped below us. And I was like, wow, so early on, we're making a move. Halfway get around, and I said, Coach Mark was walking with me, and I said, how we're doing? He's like, it's kind of turning back the other way. And I was like, all right. And I tried so hard, and, all the guys tried so hard, and we get to the 15th hole, and it's back-to-back par 5s, and I look at the leaderboard, and we're playing with Denver, and it's just between us and Denver on the cut line, and they were 2 ahead. And I look over, and the Denver kid looks over, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and it was kind of like the almost game on face.
It's like, here we go.
And he makes you could tell after he looked at that leaderboard, he got nervous because he was a great player, played great all day. And then the swings he started to make were, a bit, and for everyone, myself.
Oh, yeah. You're gripping.
It was clench time. Everyone started getting tense. It got tight. you could just feel it. And we had a couple, we had Ricky out there left who, he had he was way over par and he pulled it all the way back and got us back in contention. And we had we were tied going into 17, and Ricky made a bomb for a par and had this huge fist pump. And he put so much pressure on the other team, they made a mistake. So then we had a 2-shot lead going into 18. And, me and the boys sat on the hill of the 18th hole and we're just, crossing our fingers, and we see Ricky back in the fairway and he's way back there. And we're like, wow, did he hit an iron off the tee or anything? Like, no, he's in. So he hits it to the front of the green, and Casey comes up. He goes, he sniped it off the tree.
Oh, God.
And, we got a fortunate break, and we're like, oh, thank God. Steps up there for the 75-foot putt up a cliff and buries it. And we just go nuts. The emotion just came out. Ricky's fist pump. All the boys and I jumped up and screamed. And the coaches, they were brought to tears because it was such an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like you said, no matter how good a player you are, how good a team you are, the regionals are something different. It's just, who are the best 5 teams that week?
Yeah.
And the relief it was to just get through and in the position we were. And it brought us so close. And that's what college golf is all about. It's moments like that. You don't get to live that much, often in golf.
Yeah.
There's not much team stuff. And so we were able to do it. And so now we came back and we're all working hard, and we're we're leaving next week. We've got a job to do, and we're all prepared for it. And I think we're more than capable of, bringing that championship back to Gainesville.
Yeah, and you guys have, obviously it's a very similar situation. You got to get through the stroke play portion. You got to get yourself in those one of those top 8 slots to get to match play, and then obviously know as well as anyone that once you get to match play, anything can happen. You've had a lot of experience playing on teams, in match play formats. And, before I let you go, before I let you get back to preparing for the national championship, I want to talk briefly about the Walker Cup. You were the second alternate on the GB&I squad after Sandy Scott had to withdraw due to injury. That kind of bumped up Jack Dyer and then added Jake Bolton into the lineup as a first reserve, and then moved you up to the second reserve. I know that Walker Cup is something that's been on your radar for quite some time. I know it was a big target for 2021. But as you said, still young, still, I'm guessing all plans are for you to make the 2023 team your priority, to go over to St. Andrews. That's not a bad track. You should try and play St. Andrews. It's not a bad town. You'll like it. But I want to ask you, obviously there's the disappointment of not playing. There's the thrill of actually being in the team room and being a part of it. What is maybe a takeaway that you have from your experience that week that is going to help you not only push to make the team in 2023, but should you make it, which I know that's your every intention, how will it help you be successful in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously, I wish I would have been able to play,
sure.
This year, obviously being in Florida and having a lot of experience in Florida, but it was an awesome week, down at Seminole. It was tough to watch, obviously, because I as a player, you just want to go out there and you really want to go and help, and I just wanted to be set free and play some match play, because it's my favorite part of the game. But I loved just the whole setup of it. Seminole, Jimmy Dunn, he ran that event like I've never seen before. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. The members, they were incredible. The hospitality, the patrons, both teams. It was a great week, especially the way the world's been in golf in the past few months, and I learned a lot. It was kind of as just watching for once rather than playing. I learned a lot. And every morning I woke up early with the team, 6 a.m. and got on that bus, and I had the opportunity to stay back and not come until later, but I wanted to be there. I was on the first tee every day, encouraging the guys as they're going out. And, I wanted to do everything I could to help the team to get the win. Although I wasn't playing, I was part of that team, and I was part of, Great Britain and Ireland. And it's from where I'm from, and it's what I bleed. And so I did everything that week I could to help the guys out. And it was close. It came down pretty close, but unfortunately, they obviously, the U.S. team just came on top, and I definitely learned a lot that I can incorporate to my game and into how I go about in a team environment for the next one. And I'm going to work as hard as ever, like I have in the past, and do everything I can to put myself in a position where I will make the team and be able to go over to St. Andrews and play there. Played there a couple of times, and it'd just be an awesome place, the home of golf to compete on, UK soil and that. And I'm really motivated for the next one. It's shown me a lot, and I just, I can't count the days down until that opportunity hopefully comes up.
Yeah. Walker Cup's definitely one of my favorite events, and yeah, you're absolutely right. Everything you said about how it was held at Seminole, completely. Never forget that, and I can't imagine what St. Andrews is going to be like. I've been to St. Andrews a handful of times, so I'm really looking forward to being there. So I was going to ask how good Ricky is at ping pong and why does he keep ducking me every time I want to play. There's always these excuses, no, I'm just kidding.
That kid. That boy, he is so good at ping pong. It's unbelievable.
I know. I already know.
On when in his freshman year, I heard that he would be out there at night practicing, and he watches videos. And I made it my goal to, by the time I leave Florida, to be able to beat him in a game of ping pong, and haven't done that yet. But he's, we have some intense matches during practice, and Coach Deacon, I mean, he's just as good, and it's cool seeing them go at it because they get really into it, and it gets very intense, and it's good to have a little bit of competition within the team, as we're working out and, as we've got some time off. And it's golf's a very competitive sport. I'm a very competitive person. That's why I love match play. And that's why the Walker Cup to me means a lot, as it is the pinnacle of amateur match play. And, playing for Great Britain boys team in the Jack Leglise Trophy 2 years, and playing for England Golf in the home internationals and the European boys championships for several years, it's part of who I am, and it's part of what I strive to be better at. And I do think it's one of my strengths in my game. And that's why, I look forward to the Arnold Palmer Cup, which I'll be playing in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
And I just love these, match play as it is, US Junior Ams, US Ams, British Ams. But team match play is, my dream one day, obviously, is, Ryder Cup. That would just be unbelievable. So I definitely
imagine if Poulter's your captain on Ryder Cup. Oh my gosh! I mean,
that would be the picture perfect story right there.
Oh my gosh! You gotta, if you do wherever that Ryder Cup is, if it's in the States or even if it's over somewhere in Europe, you gotta like drive a red Ferrari to the golf course just for old times, something like that.
I'll ask him if he can lend me one for the week.
Yeah, he's got he probably got about 37 of them, so that shouldn't be a problem. Well, Joe, listen, man, really great seeing you at Walker Cup, and I wish you the best out at the National Championship. I know you will do Gator Nation proud. We've had a lot of Gators on this podcast, so glad you're able to spend some time, and safe travels out to Arizona, and appreciate you stopping by the back of the range.
Thank you very much for having me, and great for having me out here, and I appreciate it.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Joe Pagdin for joining me on this episode here at the Back of the Range. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Every single episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. We'll see you next time here at the Back of the Range.